Hi, this is Patricia Stepler with Your Inside Power. We are taking you and showing you how to live from the inside out so you can have and create the reality that you want. So this is part 3 of a series that's talking about prosperity. And I've already shared with you a little bit about how to start to get the prosperity. So if you haven't seen the first 2 parts, I would suggest you go back to them because they are building upon each one. And so today, what I want to concentrate on is this substance that's in the world. And this substance is omnipresent. So it's every place at the same time. It penetrates everything. It can cut right through walls and anything that appears to be solid, but nothing is really solid because everything's vibrating. So it permeates and penetrates everything. And this substance, if you put a thought in it, it will turn that thought into reality. Now, that sounds very simple, doesn't it? And the reason it sounds simple is like, oh, put a thought there, now it will appear. And that's when people say, oh, that is such woo-woo, that doesn't work. It's because you don't understand the process. There is a process to it. There are laws as to how to attract something into your life. Just like there are laws of gravity. When you jump off a building, you're going down. You're not going to go up, you're going down. So that's a law of gravity. Well, there's laws when it comes to law of attraction. And the law of attraction is a part of the law of vibration. So you have to understand that everything vibrates, everything is moving, everything is energy. As Albert Einstein said, everything's energy, that's all there is to it. And even Einstein understood that when you put a thought into the substance, then you produce the thing that is visioned by that thought. Now, you can't just think about it, you have to put some action behind it too. So it's a, action, reaction, reaction. But we have to start with those fundamentals that there is a substance that vibrates. So everything is energy, as Albert Einstein says, that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but to get that reality. There is no other way. This is philosophy. This is not philosophy. This is physics. So he's saying scientifically that when you match yourself to the frequency of the goal that you desire, it will form into reality. Now, I have some resources here I want to share with you today. And so the first one's by Wallace D. Wattles. And he says, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made. All things, not some things, all things are made from this thinking substance, and which in its original states permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. That's what I just said. It fills everything. A thought in the substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing this thought upon the formless substance, can cause a thing he thinks about to be created. Basically, the same thing as Einstein saying. You put your thought, you match the frequency, and it becomes your reality. So putting that thought out there is one thing. Matching the frequency is what I really want to touch on today. So we know that this substance vibrates. Everything's vibrating. The law of attraction is part of the law of vibration, as I already said. And so everything is vibrating, and things are vibrating at a very high rate of speed. Every thought you have is on a level of vibration. Everything that you have today, you have been in harmony with, you have been on this same frequency, vibration. We're going to just use them interchangeably. You have been on that frequency, which is how you got it. Now, because maybe you didn't understand it, doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means you didn't understand the process. There are many things in my life that I got prior to understanding this. And had I understood it, I'd have been able to get things quicker and get things more abundantly. So that's what we're here with Your Inside Power. We're showing you how to attract these things into your life and give you a process so that you no longer have to wonder how to do something, and you no longer have to wonder how comes I got this goal, but when I tried to get that goal, it didn't happen. You will understand that there's a reason, because there's a law. And here's the beauty. The law doesn't care who you are. The law does not decide and choose the winners and losers. It's our choice. We get to choose. We get to decide whether we want to believe it or not. We get to decide whether we're going to accomplish the goal or not. And when we fail, here's the hard part. When we fail to achieve our goal, it's our fault. Because our results always tell what's going on inside our mind. Now, let me set this up for you. Scientists believe, and I've heard this two different ways. Some say 10,000, some say 50,000, that there are 10, so we'll just say 10 to 50,000 thoughts, 10,000 to 50,000 thoughts that go around in your head every single day. When those thoughts are going around your head, you're not consciously thinking of all of them. Oh yeah, every once in a while, one of them might come into focus. But let's think about it. If you had 10,000, let alone 50,000 thoughts going around your head every day that you're thinking of, first of all, you get nothing done but thinking about those thoughts, but you'd be so exhausted. That's a lot of thinking. So what we know is your memory is very strong. From the time you were, even before you were born, when you were, in vitro, you were picking up language and you were hearing things. And those thoughts and those things that you were hearing and things all through your childhood, things that were said to you or things that you heard, things that you maybe heard from news or heard from the TV, or you heard your friends say, even if it wasn't directed to you, you heard those thoughts, and your memory is kind of like your computer, just saves everything. Okay. And so all those thoughts are still in your head. Sometimes we think we don't have a good memory. That's not true. We just don't know how to utilize it. Our memories are really very perfect. So when we're trying to change, and I'm sharing with you how to build this idea, you have to understand that there's a lot of thought patterns and a lot of those messages going around in your head that are not going to be serving you well. And so sometimes when I say, it's a harsh reality to realize that it's our thinking that produce the result that we didn't want. And that if we don't achieve what we want, it's our own fault. That's so difficult to understand because we sometimes think that we're doing the right thing. But you have to understand that there's an underlying current in your mind that could be counteracting whatever you're trying to put in there. Because sometimes those habits, those bad habits, those bad statements that are running through your mind, there's negativity that you have circulating in your mind are not going to serve you well. So I want you to realize that sometimes this takes an enormous amount of work depending on where you are. And that's the other thing. Sometimes people get very discouraged because they see some people becoming super successful really quickly. We don't know enough about their background. You see, they may have gone through things already in their younger life that maybe you did not. Or they may have been having more positive impact and positive thinking in their life than maybe you did. I think of that with my 3 children. Because my husband and I were really into personal development, particularly myself, I was very conscious of the things I said to my children. And I knew that early on. And so I watched what I said very carefully. I was very quick to encourage and very slow to discourage any of my children. And I tried to be very supportive. Most people didn't have that upbringing. I didn't have that upbringing. My parents weren't that way with me. They didn't study personal development the way I did. And so my children had an advantage. So sometimes, like all three of my kids achieved things in their young life when they were still in, elementary school or high school and college. They were achieving things that a lot of other children did not achieve. And that was partially to their upbringing. And what always kind of amused me was different times as they're adults now, they'll say something, I'm like, dang, they were listening to me, because they'll come up with something like, why do people have to be so negative? And so even though none of them have really studied a lot of personal development, I mean, they've studied a little bit, but not like I did, even though that hasn't been part of their life, they had a better foundation than a lot of people. So we don't know what somebody's background is and what their perception is because of the experiences that they had in their life. Same token, we don't know for sure all the things that we may have to overcome in order to accomplish what we want to in life. So this substance that permeates and penetrates everything, we can't see it, we can't feel it, we can't, hear it. It's just there. And we have to accept that if we're going to follow the law of attraction. If you cannot accept that, it's going to be hard for you to do the process that has to be. You have to do things in a certain way, and you have to become that person that you want to be in order to get to that frequency level. So you have to act and believe with conviction that something's going to happen. So that's another thing that keeps people from accomplishing what they want. They can put that idea in that thought, and they can believe that it's going to happen, but they don't have the conviction. And so because they don't have the conviction, the first time a little doubt creeps in their mind, they accept that and they listen to that doubt. First time a little fear enters, they go towards that fear. And so we have to be very careful that we believe that it's going to happen, and we're convinced that it's going to happen, and we never waver on that. That can be very difficult. Why is it difficult? Because that takes focus. It takes having blinders on and keeping that focus on exactly what we want. And as Wattles says in his book, Science of Getting Rich, that's the most difficult work for anybody, that sustained thinking, that conviction, that belief that things are going to happen, and that it will be the way you picture it, and you will have that reality. And because it's so difficult, that's why most people fail, because that sustained thinking is very difficult to do. Now, in this other book, we're talking about ascending to a different frequency. So where we are today is on a frequency, and the frequencies are infinite. They go above and below, and some of the lower frequencies are physical needs. So when you were a child, you run a lower frequency. You just needed your physical needs met. You needed to be fed. You needed to be changed. You needed to be kept warm. You needed to hug. You needed those physical vibrations. So it's a very low level. And then as we started to learn as a child, a 2-3-year-old, we started to move up on those frequencies, because the next levels are intellectual frequencies. So we start to understand things, and we start to experience things, but it's still more of using your senses. And as we keep going up those levels, we get to more of the spiritual thinking. When we're starting to do the things I'm talking about in this series, we're starting to put a thought out there. We're starting to use the laws to help us, to help us become the person that we know is inside of us. You see, I believe that inside of you, there is just this voice saying, this is what I really want. This is what I think I can do. This is what I want to do. And then for some reason, we pull back because we don't have the belief in ourselves. And that's all from one of those self-images that's in our subconscious. So when we decide on a goal that's bigger than anything we've ever done, and I suggest you go to Inspired Goals. And if you want to learn more about that, I'd suggest that you go to my site and book a call with me at Your Dream Power. And when we do that, when we start to move to a higher frequency, we need an inspired goal, something that excites us and makes us want to do more and to learn more. And that goal is going to be at a higher frequency. You're not going to go for a goal that's below where you are now or equal to where you are now. You're always going to want to rise to a higher frequency. So Neville Goddard talks about the frequencies. He says, the rising from one level of consciousness, which is the same as a frequency, to another is the only ascension that you will ever experience. No man can lift you to the level you desire. The power to ascend is within yourself. That's why this program, this call is called Your Inside Power, because the only way you can rise higher is from being inside of you. It's an inside job, okay? So you appropriate the consciousness of the level you desire to express by claiming that you are now expressing such level. This is ascension. So you have to claim it. You have to decide, this is who I am. This is where I'm at. You have to act it. You have to become it first in your consciousness before you'll see it in reality. Reality does not follow consciousness. Consciousness always starts the process. So you have to be aware that you already are that person. You have to be aware of the reality that you want prior to seeing that reality in front of you. Let that sink in for a minute. So you have to claim yourself. This is what Neville Goddard says. Claim yourself to be that which you want to be, and you shall be it. Not because of masters will I give it unto you, but because you have recognized me yourself to be that, I will give it unto you, for I am all things to all. So we have to claim ourselves as to what we want to be before it's going to happen. So you have to use your imagination. Your imagination is one of those intellectual faculties that we have. And as you use your imagination, then you will start to build this picture, and you'll see that the person you are today is not the person you need to be in order to accomplish that really big goal. So you have to become somebody different, but you have to be it first. You have to be that person. If you want a larger business, you have to see yourself as already having that business. So before you can have, another 100 clients, you have to first see yourself as having 100 clients. In order to have that $1 million, or to have that house, or to have the car, and whatever it is, you have to see yourself as first deserving it, and that you have it. So faith is a very important part, faith and belief and conviction. And so faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen. Listen, faith is the hope or the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. See, faith and fear are both invisible. For some reason, fear is easier to believe because we feel it more. We feel that kind of frightening feeling when it's fear. Faith is also invisible. And the way you see faith is by that total belief that you can achieve what it is that you want. So we have to start looking for that. And when we start doing that, we have to be very careful of the words we say. You see, I've already said that there's all these thoughts going around, and sometimes those thoughts will come right out of our mouths. And we'll say things from our past, like, oh, this always happens, da, 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 da. We have to be very careful what we say. And every time we reach into our memory and grab a phrase that we've said before or heard that's not going to serve us well, we have to find a way to stop it before it comes out of our mouths or counteract it afterwards and rephrase it. That's not what I meant. This is what I really mean, and say it the right way. So the words we say, the thoughts we think are super powerful when it comes to figuring out the reality and producing the reality of what we want. So make sure that you're only thinking the thoughts that you want. So we've been talking about prosperity. So if you want to be prosperous, you have to think prosperity. You have to see yourself as being prosperous, of doing the things that you would do at the point that you have the money that you really want. Sometimes that can be difficult because we know where the bank account is. It's not what we want. So we have to fool our mind. We have to pretend, back when you were a child and you pretended that you were somebody that you're not. Pretend that bank account has an extra zero to add on to it, if it's not a zero now, right? So if you have $1,000, you have 10,000, you have $100,000 in the bank account, and then see yourself doing those things that you would do if you had $10,000, or if you had $100,000, or if you were making the amount of money that you really want to make. What kind of things would you do? And just pretend in your imagination and make it a game. Take 10, 15 minutes every day and just go into your imagination and just pretend. See yourself already having the things that you want. See yourself with the business that you want. See yourself with the job that you want. See yourself with the relationship that you want. See yourself with whatever it is that you want, the health. I was talking to somebody just the other day and I said, one thing, make sure that you stop saying things like, I just don't feel good today. Stop it. That's not helping you, because when you say that, you allow your mind to continue to make you to not feel good. So we have to be very careful about those words that you say. So looking back at money, start saying things like, I am prosperous. I am prosperous. Say it different ways. I am prosperous. And then go on to the next thing. Money is attracted to me. Money flows to me in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis. It's easy for me to earn money. It's easy for me to have clients. It's easy for me. And you see, the more you say things and not just saying them, I hope you could see that there was more emotion in my talking when I said that, money comes easy to me. You have to get a little emotional. You have to feel it. Your whole body has to feel it. If you just say, I am prosperous, I am wealthy, I am rich, there's no emotion there. Make it emotional. Make it feel like it's real. And see, when you make it feel like it's real, you are shifting your vibration, and you should feel it. You should feel your whole body shifting. And as you shift in vibration, so what's that mean? It means you feel better. You feel different. You feel more inspired. You feel more uplifted. You feel more excited. And as you start to get those thoughts into your mind, it changes you and it shifts you onto a higher level of vibration. Remember, there's infinite levels of vibration. You don't have to go from here and make a huge leap. You can just move to the next one. Here's the thing. They say, people who have researched this say, if we have 50% line, 50% of our thoughts are positive, 50% of our thoughts are negative. And we can just move to 51% positive and 49 negative, we're making improvement. If you can move higher than that, oh my goodness, how much faster will you move? And it's the same way with this thought process. When you can think and when you can see yourself, and the more time each day, you can feel yourself as prosperous, as having the money that you want, of having the experiences that you want, of producing your own reality, of seeing in front of you that you're actually in the house you want to be in, maybe not in the house you're currently living in, or you're driving the car that you want to drive, maybe not the car that you're driving. And if you can see yourself doing those things and using your senses to, of a sight that you're seeing that different car, you're seeing, whatever it is that you want, you will start to move quicker and you'll start producing those realities into your life. When I won a diamond ring a number of years ago, selling cosmetics, this is exactly what I did. I saw myself selling cosmetics at parties. I saw myself being super successful. I saw myself wearing, there's 3 diamond rings. I saw myself wearing each one of those diamond rings on my finger. I'd look at my finger each day and I would see the diamond rings. And then in my mind, it switched to the second place one. And then I switched to the third place one. I saw them in my mind. I saw in my mind the conversation that I had when I was told that I won one of the diamond rings. I experienced that. Now, at the time, I didn't understand any of this, but I experienced everything that went into my earning that diamond ring. And I ended up winning the first place ring. So I didn't know what I was doing. Looking back, because Steve Jobs says you can't connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. I could see exactly what I did once I understood the process of how the law of attraction works. At the time, I didn't understand it. Now that I understand it, I can see how it happens. And that's what we have to do. That's why it's so important to learn this information, because in our past, most of us have used this, whether we want to admit it or not. We just didn't know what it was. And we couldn't necessarily repeat it because we did not understand. Once you learn it and you learn all the processes, and of course I can't teach it all to you in these lessons, but I would encourage you to go to my website, Your Dream Power, look down at the events, look down, schedule an appointment, message me, and we can have an appointment. But I usually have some events going on that you can, come into, and you can learn more about this, because it's something I study every day and I still don't know all the answers. So it's not something you learn overnight. If it was, everybody would do it and everybody would be super successful in everything that they do. And we know that doesn't happen. So that's why I want you to really start to get into this and start to understand it, and join me each week on a new broadcast. Next week, we'll be doing part 4. I believe I have 6 parts to this section. And so next week will be part 4, and we'll continue with how to attract in your life what you want and how to be more prosperous. And prosperity, remember, is not just money. It can be used for any area of your life. So until next time, this is Patricia Stepler with Your Inside Power. And I want you to make sure that you're the magic in your own dreams.